All right. Welcome back to this week's episode of Monte's Gems. We got a special guest here, Matt Campbell. He's one of my friends from way back when, grew up playing sports, went to school together. And I guess, I don't know, we kind of always start these episodes like this, but I guess something that I appreciate about Mac is he's very sometimes stubborn, but he's very he's not somebody who gets pushed around a lot. He makes his decision and he makes his decision known. So if you go against his decision, that's one thing, but he will not be a pushover. And another thing that I've really noticed about him is he's just very nomadic almost. Because we both grew up from the same small town, and I remember there was one time where I don't remember. It was like a 1 day notice or something. He's like, I think I'm just gonna drive to California tomorrow or something. I was like, what are you talking about? You're just gonna drive to California? And yeah, the next day or 2 days or whatever later, he's like, yeah, I'm in the Walmart parking lot, just sleeping in your car. It's so yeah, that was my little introduction about Mac. And
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
So Jake, when you talk about his stubbornness, like, do you have some examples of maybe some stories? I didn't realize this. Is this
about
like video games? Is it like school or what? What is it?
I would say it's more so sports. I'm not 100% sure if it's school too, but I would say it's sports a lot of the time. And I don't know, that was just if he were pitching or something. So Mac's very tall, he's a left-handed pitcher. It's a very big utility to have a strong left-handed pitcher. And if he was pitching well and he got took out of the game, he was pissed and he didn't want to get taken out. And he would let you know that he's pissed about it.
Like when you say let you personally, or let your coach know?
Oh, just let whoever's taking him out know, let everybody else know. He wouldn't take it out on us, but he would let us know he was pissed. It
How
was
so would he do this?
Oh, I don't know. He'd just go into the dugout and probably be mad about it and make some remarks or something. I don't know. he
Oh,
would.
like I didn't know if you're talking about like picking up all the bats
Oh
that are in like
no,
the barrel and
he would
throwing them
never
all
go
over the
that
place,
far.
taking the Gatorade, throwing that all over the place, throwing all the like the baseball gloves all over the place, or like what?
No, it would never. It would never go to that extent. But
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
it's kind of with what he said earlier, like makes my point, like my point gets across, but it's nonchalant at the
yeah,
same time. Like people know what I'm doing,
yeah,
but it's kind of in my own corner. But no, he's spot on with that. I would say I definitely like pitching's that one spot that you have control, and you kind of just like once you lose that control, especially if you're having a good game,
yeah,
you just don't want to leave it.
yeah.
Would you say that comes from your competitive nature, Mac, or what is that?
Yeah, I would say it would be that. I think baseball was one of the only things that I ever got like, super competitive with. Just because, it's the thing that I grew up just loving.
Hmm.
So, anytime I could be up on that mound, it was like, yeah, there was 8 other guys there around me on the field, but I wanted to be the one that, I wanted to strike everybody out. I didn't want, the ball to go anywhere. So, getting pulled out, especially after a good game or even a bad game, like you just want to do better if it's a
Hmm.
bad game. But if it's a great game, you want to finish it out. So, but, I think looking back at it, every time I did get pulled, it was for the better, pitch count, everything like that. Just kind of holding up your shoulder, especially at a young age.
Yeah.
Can you still use your shoulder now? Like, can you actually do stuff with it?
Yeah, I can. It's definitely not the best. That's the reason, out of the 4 years of high school, I only played what I think two full or a year and a half of baseball actually. I was on the team all 4 years, but that other, 3 years I was out with injuries from, my ankle to my shoulder. And it definitely has to do with, I was getting overused, minor league,
Hmm.
9, 10, 11 years old. Sandy Koufax just getting used, every 3 days, 70, 80 pitches. Didn't really know how to maintain my body. So I would say when I came to high school, like, yeah, it's definitely put a toll on me. Nowadays, like everyday activities, I'm fine. I can still play tennis every once in a while, but when it comes to, weird movements like behind my arm or like behind my shoulder,
Hmm.
sometimes you can feel it click and I've had it pop in and out every once in a while. So it's usable, but it got to be safe with it.
I always tell people, if you can still eat, pick your nose, and wipe yourself, like you're doing pretty good.
Pretty
Like,
good.
Yeah. I think that also comes from just such a young age. There weren't many lefties from our town. I think you are like the only notable lefty that I grew up playing with that was actually a pretty good pitcher. And I think it's just people don't, if you don't face lefties, you don't know how to hit against lefties because it is only a little bit different, but it's still different. The ball's tailing a different way, the ball's curving a different way. It's very different to get used to. And I think that like in the Little League World Series and stuff now, the pitch count, like they have to keep you at a certain number or else you won't be able to play for the next 5, 6, 7 days. Back then it was you pitch last game, okay, you can pitch next game if you want. Like it was there was no restrictions. It was
Yeah.
you go, 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 go.
it was all that was also dependent on the coach that you had. Like if you
Yeah,
had a
that's
coach
true.
that really just didn't care and all he wanted to win and didn't really like know much about baseball, it's just like, all right, you ready to go, Max? How you feeling? Okay, all right, yeah, okay. Well, Max is gonna pitch again. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
That was definitely probably the case in, especially, I mean, minor leagues definitely where it started. You're like, oh, you only could go 3 innings, but
Right.
they would use you every, if you played a game Wednesday and then Thursday, you were going both days.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and it also comes from a lack of knowledge from the coach side, probably. Now there's
just
restrictions that wouldn't let coaches do that, but even back in the day, it's like, man, they don't know anything about recovery or how much strain it's putting on your shoulder. It's like they just had a child, their child grew up, and now they're automatically the coach. It's like they didn't go to college for this stuff. It's like they just got, I don't know, they just
yeah,
got
they're
put
the
in
only
it.
coach that their work enables them to be able
Yeah.
to be out of work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so they can go coach. While all the other dads are working and may not have played any sports at all.
Right.
I don't know. I've actually begged to differ that left-handed pitching isn't that much different than right-handed. I would say that there's a huge difference and just visually how you have to go and pick up the ball, where it's coming from as a right-handed batter. Whereas a right-handed batter for a right-handed pitcher, it's just being able to see the ball. And I know right-handed batters are supposed to be able to be better against left-handers. There's just a huge difference in terms of, I guess, visually how you look and see the ball, especially if you have someone who just is tall and they, their sidearm or wherever they're throwing from. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's another thing of growing up in Sturgis, only having like 12,000 for a population. You just didn't see that, especially like we only played against, the kids in our town. So, when you did see a lefty, it was definitely way different because, I mean, like you said, I can't think of anyone else that was, a lefty, especially a pitcher.
Right. Yeah, and even when we went and played other towns, like in All-Stars and stuff like that, it's very rare that you're seeing left-handed pitchers or left-handed anything.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're like playing against Centerville and towns
I know,
that also
yeah.
have like 1,000 people. So it's like,
Yeah.
how many of those are having left-handed babies? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, are you
Yeah,
a
I wish-
perfectionist?
I wouldn't say so. I'm definitely hard on myself sometimes. When it
Okay.
comes to work and then sports, I would say I get super picky. And like Jake said, a little bit stubborn sometimes. But outside of that, I'm super kind of just like carefree, just like, living life, enjoying it. But yeah, definitely work in sports. That's where I want to be, as good as I can be. So.
And then Jake, you spoke about him being a nomad. So where do you think that comes from, Mac? Like, I guess before the podcast, we were talking kind of about what you're doing, and I think it's very, I don't know. I don't even know what the word is for it, but inspiring maybe that you're able to move like completely all the way by yourself, away from your parents, to a different city, different state. Like for me, I'm thinking about stability. It's like, okay, I don't want to be homeless. Like, how do you just like not have that stress and anxiety? I mean, I guess maybe I kind of dealt with homelessness. So it's an experience that has been there where I can kind of realize that it's actually real. And so maybe when you don't come from that, or like, do you just have support from your family? Like, how do you have that mindset to be so independent?
I think it came for me moving out of my parents' house right after high school and going into college. that first year was pretty good because, I was in college, I thought I had a career path, studying nursing, and then, college kind of folded. And then after that, I was just really trying to figure out life. I was trying to figure out, where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, especially. I had a couple of things in life that I wanted to figure out, and work was one of those. So I kind of just took the opportunities. I had a 3 month window where I was in between. I left my job I was at, and I just started applying to jobs, everywhere in the U.S.
Hmm.
And I finally got a call from one in Chicago, and I just decided to go for it. I remember, I think I applied the end of May, and then like a week into June, I got a call, did an interview, and then I moved at the end of June within, the next 3 weeks to Chicago, just kind of packed up everything and headed out. It worked out because it was the end of my lease. I don't think I was never really stressed about it because I knew I had the job as long as, I could hold it, obviously. Chicago prices were insane. I was just ready for, an adventure, somewhere new to be. I think that comes from growing up, my parents, especially my mom, she loved, always talked about traveling. We always went to go visit like my aunts and uncles in Florida. And then what really got me was my sister was in Rome in Italy for a semester, for college. And my mom was like, if you make enough money, you can come with us to go. And this was when I was in eighth grade. So I was like, I think I was 12, 13. I was working detasseling, back in Michigan in the corn. And, I made enough to buy my ticket. We went to Rome to visit my sister. And I think right then was kind of what sparked my like love
Oh
for
wow.
traveling and just wanting to see, architecture, different cultures, food, all of that.
Yeah.
Especially coming from Sturgis, as you guys know, like you're used to one thing. So when I got to go out and experience, a whole different country, it just kind of, I think that's where everything sparked for me.
Hmm.
But even your sister, like, was she like she was kind of a trailblazer to go out and do something like that, live out of the country? Like, any idea where that came from? Were your parents like that?
Honestly, that's a great question because my parents, I mean, they traveled, like they've been to a lot of the states, but really never were out of the country that often until, we came along, my sister and I.
Hmm.
The first time we were out of the country that I could remember was, Rome. Before that, it was just Florida. So I think, well, at least I know my grandparents, they love to travel. They've been everywhere. So that set up my mom kind of with that instinct. And then, I guess it was just passed along. My sister's been the same. She went from, living in Sturgis, moved to South Bend for college. Then she moved to Washington, D.C. Now she lives in San Diego.
Hmm.
So it's, I guess we're just kind of, it just runs in the family because, I mean, same thing with me. Went to college, went to Chicago. Now I'm in Indianapolis. Uh, I don't know. I just kind of go where, where it works.
Hmm.
I find a job, if it, obviously when I find a job, I want to make that my career. Chicago didn't really work out. Um, but yeah, now that I'm in Indy, you know, I actually love Indy. I think Chicago is way too big, way too busy for me. I still like that small town life, which Indy gives you the best of both worlds. It's big, but it's also it's quiet, which I didn't really expect, and that's why I like it here.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think just something about traveling. I couldn't really pinpoint what it is, but I think it's just something that just runs in the family.
And you had talked about your lease, I guess, coming up. That was your lease that you had while you were at college when you
Hmm.
made that transition?
Yep, it was in Kalamazoo. Yeah, I had like 2 months left, so I was just like, well, I either release up here or I find a job somewhere and just go for it because I didn't have anything holding me back. I wasn't in school. I left my other job. Didn't have like girlfriend or anything like that. I had friends and family, yes, which that was the hardest part to leave, but I knew that I wanted a career, so that was the biggest thing for me at that time point.
Hmm.
And would you say your parents were pretty supportive and just kind of always allowing you to guys to spread your wings and fly and go where other?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely super lucky. I mean, my mom and dad are amazing people. Always supported me, gave me at least, the foundation of life to do what I wanted, and be able to, explore and have those options. So it's definitely, my mom and dad are great. Couldn't go anywhere without them, but yeah, it would definitely have to be from that foundation. They always, they were totally supportive. Never had like a second guessing when I told them like, "Hey, I got an interview in Chicago. It went well. I'm going." They
Hmm.
didn't. They were just nothing but supportive. They helped me move in. They helped me move in here in Indy. And then same thing when I, like Jake said, I was like, looking at going to California the next day, and then I left. I remember FaceTiming my parents up by like the observatory by the Hollywood sign. They had no idea because I didn't tell anybody really. I was FaceTiming, showing them the Hollywood sign, and they were like, obviously had a whole bunch of questions, but once they got through the initial like, what the heck, it was like, just have fun, like, want to hear, show us pictures, all of that. So they're super supportive.
Oh, wow.
That's really interesting because I think growing up in a small town, one of the maybe ideas and small town community feelings when you come around family is that they want you to stay there. And sometimes I think it's difficult for the parents to let go and to support their kids to go somewhere else while they're leaving them. And I think oftentimes there's this maybe feeling like they're being abandoned when the kids leave, and it's like, oh well, they don't like us, they don't like being around us, as opposed to being able to watch their kid just spread the wings and go, and being able to follow your dreams and chase your dreams. And I think that can really be difficult for the kids as well when if you have that feeling that you're trying to remove yourself from. So it's interesting to hear that you had supportive parents, which I'm sure they missed you and your sister both, and I'm sure it wasn't easy for them just to be able to be like, okay, now it's just us two, so they better like really, really get along, or there's going to be bigger issues.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know they look at it as, because I know they do miss it, and like myself too. Like I love my parents; they're like my best friends. I go home, every couple months they come down here as well. If I could, I'd just move them down here with me, so I could be closer with them. But they look at it as now like, we can go to San Diego for a little week vacation, or they can drive 2.5 hours to come to Indy. I think my decision with staying in Chicago and Indy was also being closer to home, because I still obviously have a lot of my friends in Michigan, Kalamazoo, Sturgis, and then my parents, obviously. So I still would want to be close to home, at least so I can hop in a car any day. Like I can get in a car right now and be home by 10 o'clock. So that's what I kind of like.
You mentioned having all of your friends and stuff in all of those local areas. We've talked on the podcast a little bit about it, about moving from a small city to a big city and how it can be so overwhelming. And do you run into the difficulty of finding friends and people to hang out with?
Yeah, especially in this day and age, in Chicago, I got super lucky. I was going into health insurance, business. It was a small company out of Kansas City, Missouri, that opened up a shop in downtown Chicago, and it ended up being, I was 7 or 8 like college kids basically, that they put in this office downtown Chicago with one guy that was like 40 that knew the business, and we all ended up just being like really good friends. Some of them were from Chicago, so I ended up meeting their friends. So that I'm super fortunate about, because if not, I'm not the best at go. Like I don't go to a bar, sit there alone, and be like, "Oh, how's your night going?" and trying to meet friends that way. So that made it super fortunate. Or I probably would have just spent most of my nights just hanging out at home, playing games with you guys. But yeah, even here in Indy, it's tough. Like really, I have Chewy, which we talked about a little bit before the podcast. High school friend of ours. But besides that, I haven't met too many people. Besides, I started a relationship a couple months ago, so that's helped me get out a lot more, which has been nice. But also, my management group at work has been great. So we go out, every couple weeks for dinner or whatnot. So it's worked out well, because now I've been here just over a month, or a year and a month. So settling in, which is nice. But yeah,
And you meant,
I don't know.
sure.
No, I was just gonna say, making friends like nowadays, and I was gonna ask, especially Jake, we're the same age, kind of how that's going for you as well. Obviously, you're still, 40 minutes away from home, but still in a new city.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, like you said, I feel like the smaller cities are more prone to people, like, I don't know, taking that couple seconds and saying good morning and hey, how are you, and holding the door open and stuff. Whereas bigger cities, you kind of lose that, I feel like. And not everybody, but it's a lot of that hospitality that kind of goes out the window, because there's so many people to think about that everybody just kind of sticks to their own. And I mean, like you said, you're going there for a career, and a lot of people are very focused when you go to a big city because I don't know, the cost of living is a lot more expensive, and their their attention needs to be focused on stability and making I don't know, making money for themselves and their families and providing a future. But I feel like yeah, it's especially I don't know, I feel like it's very difficult to make friends with people because I think we're so used to, well, I guess me especially is just used to that small hometown feel where you kind of know everybody already. And I never really experienced making new friends from other towns or whatever because I felt like I had all the friends that I really needed that I already got to see pretty much every day. So that was never something really new added to my arsenal of how to make friends. Like I'll make a joke with some people every once in a while that I don't know, or I'll say hi or whatever, and we'll have a short conversation. But that never leads to, hey, you want to go golfing next Sunday? It's like it never carries over to that.
Yeah, it seems like most
But
people
wouldn't
already
you,
have their group.
Yeah.
wouldn't you say that most of your guys' friends, if you look back on it, came from school, sports,
Hmm.
or work?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So if you could just try to get into some type of sports, you're going to make more friends. You're going to be connected. I think a lot of it has to do with shared interest. And so finding people that have shared interest is more difficult as we have to work a certain number of hours or stay home or you're in a relationship and you're not going out seeking those shared interests. I think the second aspect of it is common values and a belief system. So I think a lot of people who go to church, they still are able to make friends because maybe each weekend, each Sunday, there's new people coming to church. So if you go to some type of church or community event like that, where you're going to your school or your sports connection, whatever that is, you still have that ability to make friends. The other thing I would say is, living in Indianapolis and Chicago, I think those types of people are close to the moral compass that you guys have versus down here in Miami, Florida at 40 years old. And, everybody's going out partying and
Oh yeah.
it's just a very different moral standard. Like I shared with Jake, when I moved down here, I was at a gym and I found out that like swinging is a thing. So like there were like swingers couples. I was like, I thought that he was married. He's like, yeah, they are married, but they have an open relationship. And I was like, what's that? And they're like, oh, that means that they could just go do whatever. And sometimes this guy picks for her, and I was like, holy cow, like okay. I guess I'd heard about maybe these stories in movies and stuff, but like I guess this is real life stuff, and I'm living the real life
Yeah.
stories. So that was really interesting.
Yeah. The world is a
I
changing
think
place.
it really is. I think that's probably like the number one thing is like joining like a men's softball league or pickleball, something like that is definitely probably the best way nowadays. Or like you said, religion. If you go to church, those are definitely probably the best ways I would say nowadays. And I looked at a couple of Chicago, never got into it, but um, I'm definitely looking at like a pickleball league down here because they're opening up a whole bunch of facilities. Indoor pickleball you can play year round. Just kind of getting into that because it's real simple. It's not like a crazy sport. You don't have to bring a lot of equipment. You just need a
Yeah.
paddle and a ball.
This is the thing with pickleballs. I agree, but the problem is it's so easy where you have people who are non-athletes getting really, really good at it, and they're like, "I'm awesome at pickleball, bro. What you gonna
Yeah,
do? You can't beat me." And I'm just like, "Oh my god, dude! Like, yeah, you're awesome at pickleball. Whoop dee doo. Like, you play 30 hours a week and you can beat me. Okay, like I'm an athlete. Like, go try to hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, bro."
yeah, yeah,
But it's just like, and then these guys like. I've played like co-ed where I'll go play with a girl and they'll just and we'll play and I've gotten pretty damn good at it and they just hit it to her the whole game and it's like yeah it's like dude you guys like go home bragging to your wives be like dude we beat up on this guy and this girl today it was awesome yeah like you think about the bench warmer story or something like that
Yeah.
yeah so cool
Yeah.
gosh
Yeah.
but that's my pickleball hatred so
Yeah.
I do not like getting beat as it is, and especially by people who have never had any talent in any other sport known to man.
yeah,
Beating me at something is not super enjoyable for me.
yeah. It's like, why don't we take it to tennis or if you want to play something real.
Yeah. Maybe even a
We played
racquetball.
pickleball the last time. we saw each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the Doyle. I think we had a one-on-one tournament, and you ended up winning.
All I can recall from that is I remember being up like 17-5 on you in like on the championship series, and you coming all the way back because we were just both so exhausted after
Yeah.
playing like 3 rounds
Yeah.
one-on-one. It's just like running. It's like doing
Yeah.
suicides in
For like an
basketball, just
hour.
running back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like in pickleball, don't you only play to 11?
I think we
we were
played
playing
to
to
21.
21.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
We don't know the pickleball rules. We just
Mistake
on our
side, yeah.
we just played.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were just
I was
playing
gonna say,
typical ping pong rules.
Yeah. It's pretty much
maybe
what it
that's why
is.
you guys were so worn out. You were playing by different rules.
Yeah.
Oh,
Life-size
yeah.
ping pong. That's how we played pretty much.
It's just
Oh,
nice
yeah.
though because it's just so easy nowadays. Getting like a team together for softball or
Mhm.
whatever it may be just seems like a lot more expensive and just a lot more work. That's why I stick to golf.
Yeah, it's a lot more time devotion too.
Yeah.
And everybody has to be on the same schedule. That's 18 guys at least that have to be on the same schedule that actually set apart that time every week or every month or whatever.
Yeah. That's the big part is like with work, like I don't know, my hours might shift one way or the other way a week, or I have to go in because there's, whatever, an emergency going on with the department. So it's just like I would love to sign up for something, but it's like, can I commit to it is
Right.
the thing.
Well, you can be like a lot of people and just commit to something and never actually be committed to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go like 2 weeks out of like the 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I could play. Like,
Yeah, never show up.
dude, Chad, like you haven't been here. It's like I know, but like I got other stuff to do. It's like, well, yeah, but you said you could play. It's like, yeah, I could play like 2 or 3 out of the 15 weeks. Like I'll be there, guys. Like don't worry.
You're
Yeah.
playing like 7-on-9 softball.
Yeah. Yeah. no
One
kidding.
outfielder.
Yeah. One outfielder playing as Rover.
Yeah.
When I come play, I'll hit like 5 home runs and I'll make up for all the games that I lost. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
All you need.
Which we were talking about earlier about the left-handy being a whole different visualization, but we were kind of talking before the podcast as to one of the things that I wanted to bring up was something specifically about Mac is I don't know if it was necessarily from birth or it gradually got worse over time, but his right eye is, I guess I don't know how it is, but I know that it's very difficult for you to see out of it to the point where it's practically blind. Well, legally blind, obviously, but like how was that?
Yeah, no, it happened. It was just from birth. My grandma is also blind in one eye, so I think it's just a hereditary thing. I'm hoping my kids, can skip through that. But growing up, I didn't know too much about it, so it was never like an excuse to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely it made anything that was a fast-paced sport was struggle. And then I also noticed once I hit 16 and started driving, it's not that bad, but like I usually take an extra, look left, look right, and I do it another 2 times. Because with only having, one good eye, I don't have any depth perception. So that always made driving like I always question myself because I'm like, is that car as far as it is away, or can't tell how fast they're going or whatnot. And transitioning into baseball put me in the outfield. I always struggled because I couldn't really track. I never knew, how high was it, how far away was it. I would always take that first step back, and then I would come forward, and then I'd be like, wait, I got to go back.
Yeah.
It was just like so hard tracking the ball. It was the same thing. Like I pitched and I played first base. First base was always tough. You have a second baseman in high school who thinks he needs to throw a 90-mile-per-hour rocket at you from 15 feet away.
Yeah.
You just can't pick up on the ball, and that's why I never batted, because I was all right in minor league, like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. Once you got to 13, 14 and kids started getting 65, 70 miles per hour, it's just like I was swinging hoping to hit it. I didn't know what I was swinging at. I think Jake could specifically remember anytime coach would put me into hit in high school, any pitch that was like at my chest or above, I was swinging at it because it was the closest to my eye level.
Yeah.
Where I thought I could see it the best, so I thought it was a good pitch. But yeah, no, baseball was definitely super hard. Besides that, it's really like I live normally, like it doesn't affect me in any other way. But yeah, baseball was definitely the biggest thing because I was just swinging with a prayer, just hoping I made contact.
Wait, your high school coach knew this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like we were either it was a game that didn't matter or we were up by 15 runs. So he's like, "Hey, Matt, go grab a bat." I remember specifically one time, Corbin, one of our teammates, he was up to hit, and the fence we were playing at was like 260. It was like super short, so he just wanted to go up and hit a home run. And coach put me in, and Corbin was pissed. I ended up going out, watching 2 strikes, and then swinging at a ball that was like at my head. Yeah, it's just I always tried. I always did batting practice, just could never figure it out. And it was always because I remember it was like senior year. I ended up looking something up online, like if you're legally blind, whatever eye, or if your eye prescription's this, when do you start to lose like contact of the ball or something coming at you? And it was like that, like 50 miles per hour is when it starts to like slowly get harder, and the faster it gets. And I would always ask my doctors, it's like they're like, yeah, you just kind of got to try. There's nothing we can really do for it, but yeah.
It also doesn't help much. So you're a lefty, so you're standing looking
so
at the
my front
pitcher,
eye.
and it's your front eye. That I would assume that probably makes it even more difficult. So you have to have like your whole head turned 90 degrees. You can't be looking through the corner of your eyes. You have to have, so I can only imagine that would be,
Yeah,
Well, the
no,
other
it's
thing
full
is,
shoulder looking like this.
if you get a pitcher that like doesn't have very good control, and you get one
Oh,
coming
yeah.
at your face, you're not
Yeah.
you're not turning enough to be
Yeah.
able to get out of it. That where it hits your helmet, like it's
Yeah.
gonna hit you in your other eye.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I needed.
Yeah. Yeah. So
No, yeah, it's like instead of having a half a second to react, I had like a tenth of a second
Yeah.
to, oh, there it is, and then it's already
Yeah.
by me at that point.
Yeah.
So do you have vision in your right eye, or is it just like really, really bad vision? How does that work?
Yeah, the best way I can explain it is like it's just extremely blurry. Like the best things I can see is like super bright, like neon, like a neon green, neon orange. Those colors pop out to me, so I can tell colors a little bit. But then like since I already have like the perception of like know what a human looks like, I know what a car is, like some big object. Like if I was to close my left eye, I could understand that it's a human coming towards me, because like obviously my brain knows
Right.
it's not whatever it's going to be. But I guess if you put me in a room and they had a bunch of different things, and I had to close my eyes and try to guess, I wouldn't be able to.
Oh, wow.
And you said neon green, so like tennis. When you were playing tennis or pickleball, did you feel like you had both eyes and you're able to see a lot better, or was it just still very, very blurry?
Definitely easier. I'd say a lot of times, since most sports are outside, I end up closing my right eye anyways because they're pretty sensitive to light. So I just kind of close it just to keep the sun out of it. But no, I mean, like pickleball, I wish baseballs were like softballs, the size and the color.
Yeah.
And then, ping pong, tennis, all of those, like those bright green balls, orange balls, like definitely make it a lot easier for me to see. Because, I know sometimes when I switched up to a white ball for ping pong, it made it way more difficult because it didn't like pop out.
Oh, wow.
I remember I was going to say, I remember you were pretty good at ping pong, I remember. And I guess I just never knew the way to beat you was just switch to a white ball or a black ball or something. And then
a white ball with a white background.
Yeah, easy win.
What about when it comes to reading books? Are you nearsighted, and can you read up close?
Yeah.
Is it like nearsighted?
Yeah, I think one of the hard things for me, reading was never my thing, especially growing up. A couple of different factors, but I know I always struggled to keep my place on like the line. And I think that just came with one, my eyesight, but then also kind of just like dyslexia mixed into it. I remember, struggling to keep my focus on the page, but then, when you get to the end of the page, it's like I read 1,000 words,
Yeah.
but I read the word only, and I didn't read it as a sentence, so I wasn't putting it together.
Right.
So, yeah. But no, overall, it's like normal everyday life things. It's pretty normal. I would say the only thing that can get me is if I stare at a computer screen for 8 hours a day, or my phone, my eyes do get pretty sore. I normally don't get headaches, but my eyes end up being like super sore. Like I'll move my eyes around and it gives like a sharp pain. So I think that's the only difference, getting eye pain to like a typical headache, I guess you could say.
Because I'm thinking about like Jake when we're playing VR, and sometimes like you're just looking at one eye and you get really, really like disoriented. Like for Mac, that would be terrible because VR wouldn't work because you have to have both eyes to project
Yeah.
image to be able to feel like you're actually there, and that would be terrible.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Get
a
such
3D
bad-
movie. The 3D glasses don't do anything for
Oh
me
wow.
either. So it's just like I'll stick with 2D. But
I never even thought about that. Because it's like the blue light and the red light they're both projecting differently, and that's why it pops out as 3D. That never
yeah,
crossed my
I just get
mind.
one side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about if you fold them both over and you look through like the both colors?
Yeah.
You know, I'll have to keep that in one of my back pocket for the next time I go to a movie theater. No, that's a good question. Yeah, I guess for me, I'm like it doesn't bother me. Like people used to make jokes all about it. You go through high school, like people take things like
Oh
that and
yeah.
pick on you about it, but it never bothered me because I was born with it. So I grew up. This is all I've ever known. So I would say I would almost prefer just keeping my one eye, unless if like they said like, oh, we can do the surgery to give you vision in both eyes. I'd be like, like I don't really need it that much right now. So like, do I really want to like
Risk it.
just like I don't know. It would just be so weird being able to see like
Huh.
everything over here, like my hand, like I don't see it, like
Oh
everything
wow.
peripheral for both eyes are really not the best outside of my glasses.
Huh.
So I'd honestly probably just be like, yeah, I'll just stay with one eye because it works.
Which, going back to that story of you driving from Sturgis all the way to California, makes it a little bit more like interesting. It's like, why don't you try? How about you try driving from Sturgis to California with one eye, bro? Like,
Yeah.
see how you do.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah. And he's not
Yeah,
even the
no, it would
worst
You drove
driver on
back,
the
right?
road.
Yeah, I've never had an issue driving besides, I mean, like I said, I know the handicap, so I just stay a little bit, if I'm not sure, like, I'm just going to take another look. And it's usually just when you come to like a T in the road and you got to look both ways.
Mm.
Usually that's when I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take an extra look just in case, because sometimes it seems far away, but it's a lot closer than what it really is. But it's never been like an issue because I know they say that, if you only have one good eye, you technically don't have depth perception. But over the course of your life, you can like your brain can kind of like make your own perception of depth perception, if that makes sense. Yeah.
What about, have you taken advantage of like getting a handicap parking decal?
I don't think I could, but like
Oh,
I
I'm
don't think
sure you
I couldn't
could.
do that personally.
Oh.
I would feel bad. Like
Yeah.
it would be that typical story, like that video. I'm pulling into a front row parking spot. I get out and then I see like a grandma in a wheelchair or a walker coming up. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
just
She has
couldn't
to
do
park
it.
all the way in the back.
Yeah.
Because you stole her spot.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. I've thought about it, but maybe give me an extra like 40 years on my life and I'll be like, okay, I might be able to use that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you could take full advantage of that. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Probably.
they're just giving those things out.
Like
I
anybody
don't know what they're doing, but just about, I see full, healthy, grown 30-year-old, 25-year-old kids who walk straight into the gym, like parking their usually BMW, Mercedes, because the handicap parking spots are away from the peasant parking so that their vehicle's not going to get scratched, I think. It's just like, holy cow, dude.
Well, those are the guys without stickers. They're just parking there just to park there.
Which brings us to another topic that I absolutely cannot stand is ESA animals, emotional support animals.
Yeah.
Oh boy, dude, you can get me going for hours on that.
I guess it's a good thing I haven't ordered my emotional support animal thing for my cat yet, because technically here it's $400 for a down payment and then $40 a month, or I could pay $100 for a year of having that title, so I wouldn't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, I'm going to do that if they like. Why do you have a cat without telling us? Like, obviously, I'm going to spend $100 instead of like $1,000 over the course of a year.
Yeah.
But they hand that. You go online, you can get it in like 10 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
and then you get people taking animals everywhere. Like, it's just restaurants and stuff. Like, you shouldn't have a cat or a dog here, especially because they're not trained. Like, it's just a house dog.
Yeah.
And see, I'm in property management, so I'm seeing on the receiving end of that where all these people are not paying the $500 pet fee or the $25 a month pet rent, and they have a pit bull that it would be breed restricted or a husky, so now they can live at the property and they don't have to pay for it. And then you see some of these, like today, I'm looking and there's this ESA and he's walking and he's like going up, like wanting to bite my heels. And the lady's like, she always has him like this. It's like, oh, dude, like this isn't even a well-behaved dog, like let alone an ESA. Like what kind of emotional support is he helping you? It seems like that's going to cause anxiety.
More
Like
stress,
every
yeah.
time somebody walks by you
You
have
gotta
to
hold
like
it,
follow
yeah.
him and make sure he doesn't bite somebody. Like how
Yeah.
is that helping
Yeah.
your emotions? Like
Yeah, I guess from your side, yeah, there definitely should be like more regulation. I would say, especially for dogs, just because of the amount of damage they can cause. I mean, cats can do a lot as well, but
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, that's definitely I've never really taken the second to think about it from like, your aspect where, they're doing this to get out of this fee, and then you have a dog acting like that.
Or you have 327 apartments and 85% of the property is pets, and then a number of those are ESAs, and then you have barking and they're not well behaved,
Yeah.
and then like you have all these residents. Oh well, I'm like, I can't go to sleep, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh dude, like,
Yeah.
and then they're
Yeah.
wanting to take it into the gym with them where other residents are, and the other residents are like, why does he have his dog in there? It's like, technically it's not a dog, it's an ESA. It's like, well, he was at this amenity,
It's still
and
a
it's like,
dog.
oh yeah.
Yeah. That's why I haven't got it yet, because I'm like, I don't need it. It's not, but it is way overdone.
Yeah, so long as you don't tell them you don't have a cat, therefore they won't charge you for it, then we're all good.
As long as I don't need a maintenance request, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing I've thought about. Like, if I were going on a plane and I'm going with Jake, I'd be like, I identify as an ESA, and
Yeah.
so
Oh,
like
he's free.
I don't have to. Yeah, like wouldn't that be funny if I just like wear like a dog
Yeah,
costume
that'd be a
or something
furry.
like that, and then like Jake, you have a leash and you just pull me and just like.
I think the humiliation alone would be worth the $200. That's a lot.
But you think I would be humiliated?
Dressing up as a dog and having me pull you around on a collar?
I mean, you pulling them around is enough to be embarrassed yourself.
Yeah.
You think that would
Oh, yeah.
humiliate you?
I would be humiliated.
Yeah.
If people were staring at us and I had to pull you around on a leash, I would hate that. I would not go.
You
I think
wouldn't?
Nick and
No
I
way.
are both incognito in that way.
Yeah, no
In
way.
public, just want to stay under the radar.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, this is interesting because I think this mindset comes from growing up in a small town where everybody knows your business. So it's like one small thing that you do, it's like everybody knows about it. And then like for me, it's like I grew up like that, but I don't know, I guess coming to a big city and you spread your wings and fly. And I'm sure you're kind of experiencing this a little bit more, Mac, as you go around and like are around other people. It's like I don't really care what people think about me as much. Like I get it, yeah, it would be very awkward, and yeah, like okay, it would, but it's just like okay, like what's the point? Like hey, it's the point is to be funny and like create laughs. It's like well, we're gonna laugh about this for the rest of our lives, and so it's like okay, what other people think? Like what am I gonna lose? Like, am I gonna lose a job? Am I gonna get fired from it? Like what? I'm not gonna have friends with these people who I never would have met anyways, and they're laughing at me and they're gonna share it with their friends. I was like, okay, like what's the worst that really happens from this
That's true.
embarrassment that we're so scared and fearful of being able to feel? And I'm not saying that like I have this all figured out, but it's just as I try to grasp this, it's a very interesting concept, and I think some of it stems from, for me, going to a private school and then after that, growing up in a small town where it's a very small town, everybody knows your business. And I also remember our parents being very, very concerned about what other people think of them. And so that kind of played a huge role in me too. And I'm like, okay, I always have to like be perfect. Always have to try to look my best, make sure no hairs are out of place, make sure, but going through that process and it's like,
Yeah.
once you can try to relax and get out of that, it's very refreshing and freeing. And the more and more you do it, I mean, what about you? Like being in a big city, it's got to be a little bit scary. Like, would you say you're as embarrassed if something happens or less?
I'd say less now. I mean, I used to be extremely shy. I could barely talk to even my friends. I just didn't like talking to people. Just got embarrassed about anything. So definitely that was a huge thing of growing up. Like once I moved to Chicago, I was still super like, there's people everywhere. I just like wanted to be, inconspicuous, nobody look at me. And then I kind of just noticed like I would see people every day walking to work, be like I've never seen that person again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the same thing in Indy. You see someone once, like even if something does happen that's embarrassing, you're never going to see that person again. So like there's no need, like why worry about it? Like why care? That's kind of like my mindset now. Like I'm more like something happens, or if you say something, hold the door for someone, say, make them laugh, whatever, like you're probably never going to see that person again. So like why let that, determine how you're going to be stressed for the rest of the day, or whatever it may be, because it's going to happen every day when you're in a big city. You go to Meyer, you go wherever you're going to go, yeah, there's always going to be a bunch of people. So
And I think for me, my social awareness has also drastically came down a little bit. Like I always used to be so worried about other people
mhm.
around me and like making sure I notice people and what are they doing? What are they doing? Or at the store. And I think a lot of that comes from like being raised in such a maybe a strict conservative town to where it's like, be polite, do this, and do this. And it's like this structure to where I was so concerned about so many other people and not being in their way or not doing this or not offending them, to where it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much anxiety and stress that comes from like hoping I don't say the wrong thing and offending someone, or maybe I got to be polite and I got to ask this, or even applying for a job, like, oh, well, I got to say the right things. The resume has to be perfect and all this stuff. And then it comes from like not even sending the resume and not even doing any of the things. And then you just become more bound up. And where now it's just like when I'm walking, I catch myself like just being able to enjoy my walks and not like noticing all these people around me and feel like I have to wave at everybody if I've seen them before or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I think I definitely still, like, I'm always like, I try to look around and like I like to know like what's around me at all times. And I think that's just a normal thing of like who I am. I just like to be kind of like always like in control of like the moment. So like if anything happens, like I know, my surroundings at least. I think that awareness is something that I
Mm-hmm.
just like, that gives me comfort. It doesn't like stress me out like trying to see like what's going on. I just like knowing what's going around me, and
Right.
things like that. But
no, and I agree. Like I would say for me, like there's certain places I don't like to be. I don't like to be in confined, crowded areas. Like sometimes sporting events. Like I've seen people go to concerts or like busy restaurants. Like I'm always, whenever I go to places or malls, and I don't know if it's anxiety or what, but like always trying to figure out where the exit is. So I always have a plan similar to what you're sharing with about how if anything were to go awry, like where I need to go and like not getting too close to people and like watch what people are doing and stuff. And I don't know. I wonder if that just comes from being in a small town and not being around a lot of people growing up. But you brought up the point that Chicago was too big. Like what do you mean by that?
everything was so compacted. And another thing, I sold my car before I moved there because I was moving like downtown. So I didn't need a car. You could Uber. I had a train stop right outside my apartment. So I just didn't need a car. And I think that was something that growing up with, I just missed, like that freedom to get in a car and go anywhere. And especially when you get in the car, not being stuck in traffic or waiting for people to cross the street, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like I'm a little bit north of downtown Indy, like, like 20 minutes, but I'm still in like a big area. It kind of feels like a bigger, more busy, like Kalamazoo Portage, kind of like that.
Hmm.
But I can still just get in my car and just kind of go and just be free. I think that's the part that made it too big, not being able to drive. And then also just, take 10 people here, it's like 1,000 people in Chicago. Yeah. It's just less interaction, I guess, with people, which you get enough of that in Chicago, and most people seem to be
Yeah.
super like, just, like Jake said, like smaller towns, you say hi to people.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's doing, but
He
yeah, like
jumped.
say hi to people. And
She missed her leap.
in Chicago, it's like you never say a word to anybody. Like everybody's like closed off, like almost like don't talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what the vibe is. So I think that's why it's too big. But
Yeah.
Indy, it's like the middle of, it's like the best of both worlds. It's big, but it also feels kind of like home.
Yeah. Kind of adding on to that, the whole Chicago traffic. I had to go pick up a piece of equipment for work this week, and it was like northwest of Chicago. So I went around Chicago, and I was like
Yeah.
30 minutes outside of the city. And right when 3 o'clock or 3:30 came around or whatever, stop, bumper to bumper traffic. I was like, dude, are you serious? I'm not even in Chicago. It was, and I've got a trailer behind me with 12,000 pounds on it. It's like, man, this sucks.
I would not want to be driving that.
Yeah, and but like
I'd be
it wasn't
paranoid.
Chicago. It was like half an hour, 45 minutes outside, and that is still coming into effect just because of
Yeah.
like the sheer amount of jobs and people that are in Chicago and are leaving and vice versa. And it's what a
Yeah, I
nightmare.
think it's because like Chicago's like 2 million for like the city, but like the metro area is like 8 or 9 million.
Yeah.
So it's just like you got the little spot of Chicago, and then for miles it just expands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to drive that around. But I know
Not a
earlier
fan.
you mentioned you said the private growing up with private school. I totally forgot that both you guys went to Trinity growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Holy Angels growing up for the first couple years, like kindergarten, first and second, until it closed in Sturgis. Then I moved to St. Mary's in Bronson. So we kind of have, that like private school life is a totally different life growing up than
Mm-hmm.
the public schools for sure, which I thought also was interesting on like what year's your guys' perspective of going from private school to hitting, the high school with, I don't even, way more people.
Oh yeah.
I think that it was really great to have a great moral compass. I think the teachers were really good there. I think there was a really good education opportunity. But what I think it lacked socially was a lot more negative than the positive outcomes of that. And if I were to look at people just today in society and how they're able to interact, I would say people who grew up in a kindergarten public school system or a larger classes. There's a lot of private schools down here in South Florida that just have a much bigger class structure.
Mm.
There's more people, there's more kids that go to school there. And it's that social interaction that I think we all need. I think also the rejection factor, where if you get rejected in a class of 12 people by 3 people, like there's only, I mean, 3/4 of the class is left. And so like I think there's just a lot of pressure in that, and especially for me, and thinking about like a dating aspect of it. It's like, okay, like you're going to school as a child and then as a teenager and then high school, early adult. Like if you're going to those small settings, it's really, really difficult mentally to like not have self-confidence issues or anything like that with members of the opposite sex. And so I think that someone who goes to public school who may not be as intelligent or has the education that you got from private school, that they have the social structure to be able to be more prepared to find better paying jobs in the workforce, or being able to interact with people, connect with people. Obviously, as long as you're at home and you have a really good value system and your parents have surrounded you with that, I think that social interaction and allowing kids to go out there and being around a lot more people to find their group, versus like at Trinity, if you're very specific in what you like and nobody else in your class likes it, or even in a small town like Sturgis, like it could be very difficult to find friends if you're very unique in what you like, and until you go to a big city and you're like, wow, you realize how many other people there are like you and who you can connect with, where earlier in life you may have felt really insecure because it's like, there's nobody like me, why am I like this, like almost like there's something wrong with me. And it's like, no, there's not something wrong with you, you just haven't found the right group of people who support what you're doing and who have the same interest as you.
Yeah. And it's just that going from 20 something kids in my class to 1,000 kids in a school, it was so overwhelming. And it was like, I don't like, my class was in the same room every day. And then I go to this massive building and it's like, I need a map to get around this place. Like, I don't know where I'm at. Where is everything? So it was just going to that and all of the different kids, and I never knew anybody in any of the classes. And it was like my wife, she went to school with us, and it was just like the interactions that I ever had with her. It was like I have my binder and my folders and everything in my hand, and I'm talking to her, but I'm not really talking. My head's looking all over the place. Like I'm not interacting with these people socially. It's like I'm just hanging out until class starts, and I'm gonna go sit in my seat. That's pretty much it. So it was just that whole social interaction was very difficult for me.
I would agree with it being super overwhelming. I I went to seventh grade and then I moved to the Sturgis public school for the middle school. And it was like a doghouse in middle school. I
Yeah.
was not ready to be put in front of those like 700-800 middle school kids in eighth grade, going from like I said, I had 80 kids in my whole school from kindergarten to eighth grade.
Yeah.
So it's like going from 10, 12 in a class to 30 in every single class all over the building.
Yeah.
It was Yeah, it was just super overwhelming. And the reason I left in seventh grade was because the teachers we I think I went through 4 or 5 teachers my seventh grade year,
Mm.
just because we had like a really bad. There's like 4 or 5 kids in the class that were just really just not like troublemakers, and like actually made like the teachers quit because they
Oh,
just couldn't
wow.
they couldn't control them.
Wow.
I don't remember learning like anything at all seventh grade year because nothing ever was structured. And that's kind of how it was. Like a lot of the grades growing up was just we didn't learn. We were always like a year or two behind. So once I
Mm.
hit the middle school, I was just not ready for the curriculum we were
Oh,
doing.
wow.
Um, Obviously caught up, but I think it helps going into high school because at least I had 1 year of foundation with the same kids that were going to transfer over. But
Mhm.
yeah, like you said, it was just overwhelming to just. I remember walking in every morning and everybody sat in the gym. And you had to walk. I think all the eighth graders sat on like the far side, so you had to walk in front of everyone. And that walk was like the scariest thing to do every single morning. Like I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I think about it now, I think like I would rather be embarrassed as a kindergartner around 100 other kindergartners who, if I don't know my ABCs, be like, well, yeah, well, like half of you don't either, dude. Like,
Mhm.
versus going into like 10th grade and being like, okay, I don't know how to like do multiplication, and now there's 100 people like that. It's like, oh, I've been embarrassed before. I've been being embarrassed since I was 5 years old against this great large group of people, and now I'm much more prepared for these failures and maybe these rejections and things. And because it's been like 10 years is a long time to go through something like that. And like right now, like being down here in a big city like Miami, I'm just kind of still like, I'm like 30 years behind because I'm still like going through that rejection and stuff like that. And it's like, holy cow, I feel like I'm graduating into first grade. And even for me, like in high school, I would say I was an athlete. So I played a lot of sports. So I knew a lot of people growing up in like Little League and like who weren't
Mhm.
necessarily going to the public schools. And plus I was playing basketball on some of the travel teams and stuff like that. So I knew a lot of people, but there was one thing that people would say to me, like after high school, where I'd heard rumors where I was like, you were always stuck up. And I was like,
Mhm.
dude, I wasn't stuck up. I was scared as shit. Like, like I was so shy. Like I didn't know what to say to people. Like and I think also our dad, like whenever he would answer the phone with people who were calling on the phone, like hello, it was always like I felt like anytime I would talk to people, I would be a bother. So I was just like, I don't know what to say. It's like the less I talk, the better. Because when you talk, you're bothering people. And I didn't really know what healthy conversations look like.
Mhm.
So it was all this just mumbled together, trying to like not be scared as crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so you definitely come off more of like a rude or like not approachable person when you're shy. I
Mhm.
got that a lot growing up. It's like people just were like, I thought you hated me. It's
Yeah.
just like, no, I didn't talk to you because I was scared. Like I didn't
Yeah.
like I was just staying in my own shell.
Yeah.
But people just thought that you were like being mean or like didn't like them or whatever. But like that was like never the case.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, go ahead, Jake.
I was gonna say, and then another thing about just going to public schools is you are exposed to all of that. There's a lot more information, not necessarily school based, that you're exposed to. Just like the I don't know, little kid minds and like perverted little kid minds and stuff. Like I remember there was like uh one of the kids in our class, he made like an Instagram page called like Pedo Bear or something like that. And it was just like a Instagram account. And it was just like stuff like that where the Pattisons went to the middle school after fifth grade or whatever. And they would learn so many like just random things that little kids probably shouldn't be knowing. And they would come talk about it. And Josh is over here like in his 20s probably. He's like, how the heck do you know what that is? And it's like they're teaching Josh stuff, and it's like that's just the public school system.
You learn a lot real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
Well, and I think like even this podcast, Jake, like when we started it off, I mean, I'd been on live videos before, but still it was just like my mind was like always over there. I'm like, okay, I gotta try to listen a little bit to what Mac's saying, but I also have to like create something else to so that if he stops talking, I have to ask this question. And so like my mind wasn't able to be fully focused, like having a conversation. You know, your palms get sweaty. You're just like, oh, we got a podcast tonight. It's like, okay, am I prepared? Am I not? Like, but then as you gradually get into it, it's just way more natural, easy to go. I'm assuming that was like that for you too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the very first one, it was, I don't know, it was very nerve-wracking. It's like, what am I going to talk about? Like the first, I can't remember how many, 5, 10 episodes, we had lists of topics that we wanted to talk about, and it's like if we ever ran out of things to say, it was we would mention one of those things and then kind of start a conversation from there. Whereas now it's I don't really do any prep work. I just kind of show up and we just talk about whatever we talk about and that's it. But it was very nerve wracking at first. Like, how am I going to talk for more than 15 minutes? Or how is this podcast even going to happen? And I would just be so flustered. But now it's a lot
Speaking
more
of that, that's
normal.
how like I feel like right now. Like I'm not like a camera. Like I don't like being on camera or like
Yeah.
speaking. Like I just find it super weird. So like obviously, like you said, you kind of just like you come on. We did the little like 5 minute just kind of talking,
Hmm.
seeing what's going on before the podcast. And from like minute one to obviously where we're at now, I've definitely noticed like a big difference of just like, things are just like way more comfortable. But
Yeah.
it's it's a weird like I keep looking at myself every once in a while. I'm like the light behind me is making me like ghostly looking. I'm like, what's going on? And
It actually looks a lot better on the recording if that makes you feel any better.
yeah, so, I mean, sure.
But again, I think also when we're in these positions, there has to be a level of comfortability, and it's up to the people that you're around and how comfortable you are. Like in a
Mhm.
new city, if you're around a lot of people who are very materialistic and talking about everything that they do have, and you just feel like, holy cow, like I don't have much, and they're not very welcoming or anything. Like for us, it was just like you shared at the beginning. You're like, yeah, I have a new cat, and I don't really know what he's gonna do. It's like, dude, anything goes on this podcast,
Yeah.
like this podcast isn't about trying to be perfect. That's the farthest that it's actually from, is that we're trying to find out what makes people not perfect, but still makes them tick, what makes them passionate, and what makes them enjoy life. And I think once you can sit and just be like, okay, like it doesn't really matter what I say or whatever happens here. It's like there's not going to be any issues. It's not going to be like, okay, cut. Like we got to stop. All right, we got to redo this part. It's just like, no, this is what a podcast is. We're
Mhm.
going to go from the top. We're going to reach. We're going to be real with each other, and we're sharing reality. And I mean, I think that's really important because I've been in settings where I feel super uncomfortable because
Mhm.
like, oh, dude, like these people are super like their their budget pins so tight right now. We're like, this is not going to be good if I just be myself. Like,
Right.
I gotta like straight up. Like, okay, all
Yeah.
right, let's just get through this.
Yeah. And that's
I
also
think it's
kind
better
of.
that.
Oh, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. Okay. I'll go.
Uh, no, I was just saying. I think I like it. It's better where you're not doing like cutting it and then coming up with the next topic and then putting it
Mhm.
together. It just kind of flows. Like a moment of silence doesn't. It's not weird. It's not gonna like mess up anything. Like it's just we're just here talking about
Right.
especially with growing up with like the same location. It's kind of nice to just to see how people experience life in that way.
Mhm. And it's also another thing that's kind of puts our experience to a test is kind of like that Sherpa mentality of people who are experienced and guiding people who have no experience in something and kind of like guiding them through that in the sense of it's going to be okay. Like don't freak out about it. You're not going to mess up or anything. It's just kind of us guiding the conversation and you being able to become more comfortable with it. Whereas we're just all, I don't know, just rattling off random thoughts and I don't know. It just kind of puts us to the test since what is this, like 30 of the Monty's Gems episodes and then 15 of the religious ones. And yeah, it's
Yeah, we've
just,
done close to 50, I think.
yeah.
which still feels like we're still like little babies
I
compared
know.
to like Joe Rogan podcast. And
Yeah.
then, Joe Rogan, will you be my daddy? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
can I have a papa? Like, it's just like, holy cow, you know?
Yeah. It's a very, very unique experience that a lot of people probably aren't used to. And just kind of sitting down. I mean, conversations, just sitting down and having a conversation, it's becoming more and more rare with usage of technology, whereas it's not usually face to face or over like a camera or anything like that. It's text messages, things like that. And it can be very nerve wracking if it's something you're not used to. And especially if other people are going to see this, then you're overthinking everything. Like, how am I going to look? How am I going to, I don't know. It's just one of those things.
We don't really have that issue, Jake. We always look good. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like, yeah, we just kind of crossed that one off the list. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we look good. We good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
those
like-
genuine conversations are hard to find nowadays.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that has to do with the family setting. And like, I would say communication is super, super key. And like in our family, I don't know if healthy communication was really something that was ever really learned. It was like, you know, you come to dinner, we eat, we don't really talk about much. It's like, yeah, no. Like, I mean, I remember when I used to ask Jake questions like growing up, and I would get so pissed about this. I'd be like, dude, what do you want to do this weekend? I don't know. What do you want to eat, Jake? I don't know. I don't care. I'm like, holy cow. Like, can you please just like show some type of interest in something, anything, please? Like, you want to go golfing? Not really. What do you want to do? I don't know. Okay. Do you want to go play catch? Not really. It's like, okay, there has to be something that you do want to do that you're just not telling me, or is there just absolutely nothing going on in your mind? So it's like, but it's like, dude, like healthy conversation is a learned process. And I think previously we talked about not wanting to bother people, and then in high school just being shy and not really knowing how to go up and talk to people. But you have to realize that other people are just as shy, and so if you're not the one to start that, those are really the trailblazers, the ones who have all the connections and get all the essentially jobs and ladies and friends and who anything, because they just know how to start conversation. It's not so much that they're maybe a compliment or anything like that, but they just know how to create conversation, and they have the desire to want to talk to people. That's the biggest thing. They have the desire to be able to reach out to people, say something, and just talk, man. And I don't think it's so much that technology has decreased that. I just think as a society, we're growing farther and farther away because our teachers haven't been super great communicators and teaching what healthy conversation looks like.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that though, because even I think it was like 3 days ago, my girlfriend asked me how my day was. I was like, I was good. And she's like, give me something. Like, what'd you do at work or like anything? And I'm always, and like I told her, like I thought about it because like every day, like, you know, I'll walk in, they'll ask me like, you know, my girlfriend's be like, how was your day? Or how was work? Or someone at work will be like, you know, oh, how was your weekend? My answer every time and what it's been for my 25 years of life is, oh, good. That's all it is. Like it never has any substance. And I never really like thought about, you know, from the other side, like, it's probably coming off as like, oh, he doesn't want to tell me, or like, you know, it's hard to read because even if it was like a bad day, I'm like, oh, it's like, oh, it's over. So it's like, oh, it's just good.
Yeah.
That's funny that you mentioned, like, we just had this conversation because like that just happened a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Well, it's so much easier to be consumers than it is to be creators. And I think, you know, what is it? The early 80s, you have TV. And so this idea of families sitting around the living room, talking about what happened, having to create their own skits, their own family routine, like dad has to come home with some material about what happened at work, or it's just going to be, we're all just going to sit here and like play maybe a board game or Monopoly or something like that. So there had to be that type of entertainment. And I think oftentimes we put it on other people to entertain us, to create that content so that we can consume it, instead of realizing like what type of story I have to share today, like what went on inside of my head or at my job that I can make interesting, because there's so many things that like happen that you can be interesting, and it's not just it was good. It's like, but what were some of the details of it? Like what actually happened? Like, and if we're actually paying attention and creating that while we're working, then you can definitely have a story to be able to tell and to share.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, because I've thought about it, and like I could sit there and we could have a full on 25-minute conversation of, from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock when I left, like of my whole day. So yeah, it kind of made me think about a little things like, maybe get some substance, especially because I know she wants to hear that. But just in any day life with my parents, I was always just like, good, give them, they want the little details, and most people do.
Yeah.
And I'll give you guys some words of wisdom. So when you're asking your significant others and your wives like how their day was, and they start telling like maybe about a difficult time, don't try to fix it. Don't be like, oh, well, why the hell did you do that? Like, why didn't you do it this way? It's just like, just sit there and be able to say, hey, is this a conversation that you want me to help you fix, or would you like just to be listened to? Like, I'll give you a little bit of advice there. It's a little bit easier of a road if you're just more willing to be entertained by them and to listen, or to give them what they want. So, because
better to know than try to guess and win.
Because sometimes we as men like to be mechanics and just fix anything we possibly can, and that's not sometimes what people want. And so when that happens, sometimes they shut down and they stop bringing their problems to us to fix or to even listen to, because they don't want everything to be fixed. And then that communication, when you're sitting there and Max asking his girlfriend, how was your day? He's like, it was good. Well, what was good about it? Not much. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
Now she doesn't want to talk about it. This is no bueno.
Yeah. And sometimes you just have to kind of go along and agree with it. Maybe if you don't even agree with anything that's being said from either side, sometimes you just got to say, oh, what a bitch that girl is. And then you just got to agree with her and kind of take her side. Yeah. That reminds me of, not necessarily that reminds me, but I was thinking earlier about just some of the stories from high school and playing baseball in high school was Coach Clipfell, who I believe you had as a coach, correct, Chad?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so you had him as a coach, and he really liked you, I think. So therefore, he really liked me automatically. And I was like the only one on that team that he ever liked. And there was one time I was telling my wife about it earlier this week, or I don't know, I was telling somebody about it. And there was one time at practice, it was a rainy day or storming outside or something. And he was in the gym hitting fungo, like ground balls and stuff like that. And one of the kids, he said, hey, because he always said babe at the end of each sentence. He'd go, hey, come here, babe. Come here, babe. Come on, babe. Yeah. And this kid starts walking in, and Clipfell does not stop hitting fungo. He hits a line drive straight at this kid when he's like 15 feet away or something, smokes him in the chest. He goes, oh, what the fuck was that for?
I remember he was about to go at
Clipfell, dude, he was about to start swinging at him. He's like, what do you mean? If I could hit you on purpose, babe, I'd be in the MLB or something. And it was just like shit like that. It made me laugh so much.
I mean, if Clipfell, if he liked me, I did not know it.
Oh, wow.
So, like, yeah, dude. The thing that used to frustrate me so bad was his BP. I mean, he would take like 2 walks, it was like a crow hop, and he'd throw one in the dirt. He's like, "What? I swing at, babe." It's like it was a ball. It was in the dirt. Like it was nowhere close to his right. He's like, and then he'd throw one like away outside by 2 feet. He's like, what are you looking for? What are you waiting for? Huh? You're not gonna all be perfect. Wait. Like, what? Yeah. What the hell, dude? And then like some of us would just get so pissed off where our goal, because of the L screen that we had, I think we had an older one where there was a little gap between both of them where you could hit it right through that. And so that's what we were just trying to do, is we would just try to hit it right through it, and then we would try to hit it down. He took a lot of balls to the ribs, to the elbow, and just, yeah. And it always felt like he had been drinking like a certain amount when he was throwing, and it was just like, holy cow, dude. But if he liked me, like, I would have never have known that.
Oh, wow. Well, he made it seem that way at least. Maybe he was just straight lying to me. I don't
Yeah.
know.
His BP skills
It's
never
probably
changed.
like, I put your
No.
brother through so much hell, like, I'm
Yeah.
going to be easier on you.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a character for sure.
I think my favorite story of his was freshman year. I had got hurt. My hip was, I don't know. My hip was hurt pretty much all year. I had played 3 or 4 games freshman year. So there was one game where I was sitting on the bench right next to the Pattisons, and I don't know who did it, but those Gatorade bottles with the orange caps that you screw on, and somebody had like unscrewed it to the point where like if you unscrew the salt shaker and somebody goes and like dumps it, it was the same as that where they unscrewed almost completely and he goes to squirt it and it just goes all over him. And I look at the Pattisons and we just I start dying laughing. I don't remember if they were laughing or not, but he's just got this wet spot on the front of him for the rest of the night, and it was like, oh
I remember that.
he probably blamed the kid that he hit with the fungo or something. He did not like that kid.
I mean, there was kind of reasons why.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Yeah.
so,
Well, I think I told you on a previous episode, there was a kid in my class who was younger, who was trying out for the team, and we came out to one of the tryouts one day, and I don't know if he forgot his baseball pants or what, but he was wearing jeans,
Oh, yeah.
and so he called so for the rest of the season, his nickname was Levis, like that. That's what he called him, was Levis, and it was that. He used that kid did not like that name at all, and it was just like Clipfall just thought those types of things were funny.
Yeah.
And then other kids would like egg him on to get him to say things to people because he was the coach, so he could do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah.
So they would egg him on just to like make fun of kids. It was like, oh my gosh, dude! Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Jake, what was the name of the assistant coach? I can't remember.
Oh, Watson?
Yeah, because it was weird. You had Clippy and then you had Watson, which complete opposite. Like,
oh yeah.
Not many people like Clippy, but then Watson was like a treasure. He was like the best person ever just to be around. It was just seeing that dynamic of how they worked together, and like everybody on the team like shifted one way and like avoided Clipfell when they could and just kind of hung out with Watson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was freshman year. That was a team.
Which was interesting because they'd been coaching us since Sandy Koufax. So
wow.
they coached us in Sandy Koufax and then again in high school. Well, Mr. Watson's son was on my baseball team. So
okay.
Yeah, he ended up playing professionally, but yeah.
Wow. And it was very rare because I think probably the only one on the team that he actually never made fun of once. Like, oh, he was just spewing off. He's just making fun of everybody. He was going ham. He didn't care. And I was just sitting over there. He'd be like, if I could probably hit him with a foul ball or something, he'd just say, all right. good one or something like that. Like, I don't know. For some reason, he did not ever get mad at me, but I just remember that sight of that water going down on his body because he like sat. He did it. The water came down, and he just kind of sat there for a second. And he's like, "What just happened?" Yeah. Oh, that was a good time though.
Yeah, I remember we would go in the outfield and do outfield drills, and we're supposed to be doing like where we going up, running to the fence, and like catching a ball. It's like we're doing this in high school. Like the chances of this, why are we wasting 30 minutes doing this?
Trying to rob a home run.
Yeah, robbing home runs and stuff. And you'd go and you'd do it, and then we would be out in right field, and then he'd throw the ball like 15 feet out in front. He'd be like, "Oh, see, you're running out there looking for the ball's not there. Why did you catch it?" It's like we're supposed to be robbing home runs. Like, but ball drops in front of you. You got to watch the ball. It's like, oh. And then he would always like throw it way out. It would either be like, oh, now we're doing like diving drills, and he would throw it so it's like it's uncatchable, or he would do it to where you didn't even have to run. And it was like
yeah.
Okay, like,
yeah.
I think one of the things when you started the podcast, when you mentioned kind of like the little stubbornness or like not wanting to come off the mound in certain
Mm-hmm.
situations, definitely probably comes from freshman year with Clipwell.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember a few instances, you would be on the infield, so when he'd come out to the mound, obviously we all huddle there, and I can remember a few instances of having a couple words for him, and you would just be sitting in the background just laughing. I was like, I was just like, I don't. You're not going to tell me anything in the middle of the game that's going to help me play any better. And if you're coming out here to take the ball, just don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that freshman year, I don't know. We never lost a game though. Never lost a
No,
game.
we were a good team.
Wait, you guys were on JV, right?
It was
Yeah,
freshman. I think we had a
wasn't it? It was
freshman.
we were freshmen, but it was JV, right?
No, I think our class was the last class to have a freshman, a JV, and a varsity. I'm pretty sure, or maybe I'm wrong.
I don't
I
think
could have
we
sworn.
ever had a
No,
freshman
I'm
team.
pretty
Yeah,
sure
I don't
though.
think we had a freshman.
Maybe I'm wrong then.
Yeah, I don't think Sturgis ever had a freshman team.
Okay, then maybe
They
you're
didn't
right.
when I was there.
No, I think you're
Hmm.
right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, I think because I think football and then they always coach JV,
But I'm pretty sure it was just because our team was literally only
all freshmen.
freshmen.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it probably was.
Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure there was a couple sophomores that were like on the team
but they never
but never
played.
played because we had such like a stacked class coming
Yeah,
in.
we did have a very good class.
Yeah, and then after behind us there was not
Nothing.
much. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
I was trying to be a little bit nice about that, but yeah, no, there was
Yeah.
academic and sports wise,
Yeah.
not much.
That was kind of the thing,
Yeah,
like
that's
with I was talking about with the Pattersons, and it's just like growing up, our class was very smart in school. So I wasn't stupid by any means, but I was just kind of like middle of the road student. But it made me feel dumb because everybody else was just so smart, you know? And like they were kind of saying from the perspective of they always felt like they were never very good at sports because they were middle of the road in sports, but we just had such a good class that it just made them feel like they were not any good.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I was like, we had so many kids. Like, we had, I'd say, we all hung out with the same group. It's the same group of like 30 to 40 kids that were all like,
Mm-hmm.
great academically, but also, sports wise. And we all played, just about every sport.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird because you looked at the other classes and it was like hit or miss. There was like not really, there would be a couple here, a couple there, but besides that, it was very interesting. And I know, especially with my mom being, worked or taught seventh and eighth graders at the middle school and then moved over to the high school when I was a freshman and kind of saw that as well. She saw more of the inside stuff as a counselor and, not taught me, but showed me some stories about stuff. And just like, there was like not much in Sturgis at that time.
Right. Yeah.
well, I think something that was also very unique about your guys' class was the friendships and the ability to stand up for people. Like there really wasn't that many kids that were like getting picked on or anything like that. And I thought that was a pretty big rarity for your guys' class, that there really wasn't any of that stuff, because most of the time in classes you had like the athletes and then the like other people that were like
nerds.
super smart. Yeah. And then people in band and then like the other kids. And so it was like, people were always kind of getting made fun of or picked on or
Yeah.
Everybody was mixed in everything. Like you had band kids that were in sports or super nerdy kids that were in sports, but the other way around. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I never really saw anything in our class, like you said.
Yeah.
Everything just kind of flowed really well.
Yeah, that's because everybody was like you were saying, everybody was kind of just intermingled with everybody, and everybody knew everybody else. And if somebody started picking on somebody else, then it's like, hey, that's my friend. Like, shut up, like beat him up or something. I don't know.
There was definitely cliques and groups, but
Yeah.
it's like everybody was in like 5 different groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which earlier you were talking about traveling and stuff like that. And didn't you go to Germany for the what was it called? Like the foreign
Yeah,
exchange or whatever?
to our sister city in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get a what did a German kid come and stay at your house? Were you one of those?
Yeah, he came for yeah, I think it was both. Like I stayed in Germany for 3 weeks and he came and stayed in Michigan for 3 weeks.
What was that experience like?
Well, first you had to go through like this whole like not like interview type of thing, but you had to describe like who you were.
Hmm.
Obviously at that time I was still super shy, which so it ended up they matched me with a person that was extremely shy, which was hard enough. Like we didn't
Yeah.
like we talked, but like not much because we both sucked at starting conversations.
Yeah.
We were awkward. We always yeah. So it's like he was cool and like we still talk every once in a while, like now today. I mean it's been what 9 years now, but
Hmm.
yeah, I wish I would have got we both have talked about it. We both wanted to get paired with like someone that was a little bit more outgoing just
Yeah.
because there was
Good
not
kind of
many
balance.
conversations, but yeah, I always thought it was weird because like I go over there to Germany and like it's like this big old change, but they come to Sturgis, Michigan, out of nowhere and live like at my parents' house for 3 weeks in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
which obviously like they did. They went to Chicago. Um, I forget. We took them to a Tigers baseball game. Um, so I think I think on our side, I find it weird because we're used to living in
Hmm.
Sturgis, but it's like weird for someone to come from Germany to our small little country farm in town. But
Yeah.
yeah, going over to Germany was super cool. We ended up getting an extra day in Iceland because we missed our flight, so I actually got to spend a day in the capital city in Iceland and um, 3 weeks in Germany. I got to see a little bit of France and the family I was with were they had it was mom and dad and then three little brothers. They were like the coolest people. And I
Hmm.
remember my biggest memory from it, which is funny. I just turned 17 at the time, but we went to Munich and I got my first like legal drink, which was a big old beer in a stein,
Yeah.
which is just funny because I was like at the time I was 16. It was like you just felt cool, obviously, it's because you
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing this, but it's legal, and yeah, no, it was super cool. And that was another thing after Rome. Like I knew I wanted to travel, so that Germany thing was perfect because one, it's cheap because it's through the high school. You don't have to pay for
Hmm.
room and board. You just have to basically pay for your flight, and then some other like taxi over there and events. But
Hmm.
no, that was super exciting. I definitely recommended it to like everybody that didn't go below me. I went a year early though, so I went with a group that was a little interesting because I didn't really they were the grade above, but
I see.
so that was the only part I wish I would have waited a year, but I got to go with Johnny Sicard, which was fun. Yeah, no, I would. It was amazing. I mean, the architecture over there. I think one of the coolest things is I got to go to a concentration camp, which
Oh well.
you just never, you never get to put into words. Like I could
Hmm.
never speak on it, like what it's like, but like standing there, it's just like eerie.
Yeah. It just feels
It feels
it,
wrong. Yeah,
yeah, it
it's
just
just
doesn't
weird.
feel real. Like this happened here. And you read about
Yeah,
it and you see all these things about it, but then you actually step foot on there and it's like, wow, just go back 80
yeah,
years and this is happening.
yeah. I was like I said, like one of the coolest things to experience, but also just like I mean, it was outside hundreds of tourists, other people, but like
Hmm.
dead silent. It was such a weird atmosphere, but super cool to learn about.
Hmm. What would you say is your favorite place you've ever been?
Um, I would say Rome, just because of like the architecture there. It's seeing the Colosseum and the Vatican and just all the other like, here, in Michigan or wherever you are in the U.S., you walk into a church, it's like every other day, it's like a modern church. You don't really get the
Hmm.
super old school looking churches, but over there, it's like a random church that you could find on a side street was like one of the like oldest churches that you could find here in the US.
Oh wow.
So I think just it was just interesting to find out like, everything there was so old. But here it's like we don't really have that,
Right.
especially because, we're in the middle of the US. I guess if you were over on the East Coast, it could be a little bit different in some spots, but we're just so like modernized and a lot of the cities over there, they're modernized, but they kept the old architecture from, hundreds of years ago, which is just so cool to see.
Right. And it's just such a new country that the United
Yeah.
States is. It's a very new country, and a lot of their buildings are older than our entire country is. So it's just interesting looking back through a little time machine almost, a little time capsule, kind of looking
Yeah,
back into the past.
I have a picture on my phone from a church where people were like carving their names into the wall, and one of the names was dated like it was like 1492 or
Oh,
something like
wow.
that, which like the U.S. wasn't like I don't
Yeah.
even can't remember when did Columbus come over here? Wasn't it like around that like same time
Yeah. Well,
that 14 or 15? I don't know when it was, but
92, 1492. I don't know. Something like that.
yeah,
1492, I thought.
forever ago. Which is just wild to think about. Like if I was standing in like the same spot as someone, as like
Yo, yeah.
400 years ago, whatever it is.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And that's what just makes me want to go. Europe is. It's weird to think about because like the U.S. is huge. It's like bigger than Europe, obviously, but people in Europe are like, "Oh, you've never been out of the country before,"
Yeah.
but they don't understand that the U.S. is.
A bunch of different countries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like you could say like Michigan's like the size of like a country over there, so it's
Right,
like
right.
they don't understand like they can't comprehend that it's like it's one country, but like it's all. I guess a lot of the states are pretty similar, but
Yeah. That's true.
no.
Which is interesting. Also, growing up in a small town, like people culturally and how far they've actually traveled. So, like most of the people that I know from Sturgis, it's like I've been to Florida. Like they haven't really been anywhere, even in the U.S. Where I come down to a city like this, and like people talk to us like, "Oh yeah, I've been to 20 different countries," and I'm like, "What?" Like it's just
Yeah.
like they're just traveling all over the place. Like whenever they go on vacation, it's like, "Oh yeah, I want to go to Sweden. I would like to go to Morocco, Turkey." And it's just like this is where they're going, and they've already been to all these places:
Hmm.
Italy, France, Greece. We're going to Barcelona. And I'm just like okay, like I don't really have any interest in any of those, but it's so fascinating to me, and I guess I don't know. I think maybe it's something I should want to do because the more cultured you are, I think the more you can understand and maybe be a little bit more outgoing, and it changes your perspective of life and your belief system too. And whereas being from a small town in Michigan, the conservative mindset is we're the best, we don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
All those other people, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just such a stubborn mindset, I guess. And it's like
Yeah.
you go to all these other cities, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of options out here.
That's true.
I mean, you made it out into Miami, so I mean that's a huge change compared to 95% of Sturgis. So,
Yeah.
what made you want to go to Miami, or how did you end up there?
So I actually looked at the Google weather on my phone for what was it, like over a year, and I had San Diego, Miami, Texas, San Antonio, and every day I would look and see which was the warmest place. And Miami, on a consistent base, it was warmer than almost every other place. Oh, Hawaii was on there too, yeah.
That's
and,
fair.
and now I'm kind of looking back, like summers down here are miserable. It gets so hot, especially
I couldn't
for
do
the
it.
last year and a half. I had a Polaris Slingshot as my daily driver, and it was so hot. And then you have hurricane season, so I was driving that through the rain. It was not fun. But
Huh.
Yeah, it's wild. I know. I asked that because my boss is actually she was born and raised in Miami.
Hmm.
your current boss?
Yeah,
It'd be interesting to hear if she ever wants to come back here or not.
she no, she always talks about it. She loves it. Well, that's where like most her family is, but so I mean, she goes back a couple of times a year, but she always says she loves it. Like if she's thought about moving back before, so obviously it's a good place.
To each their own, I guess. I don't know if it's a place I would want to raise a family, that's for sure. It's just like when you talked about the big city, that was the big reason I asked you, like, what you meant by that. And what didn't you like? Because for me, like, there's just almost too many options. It's like, oh, I can go to this, or I can go to this. And like my calculative mind wants to figure out, well, what's going to be the best option? It's like, well, I don't really know. And then I get this analysis paralysis of, well, I should have done that. No, I should have done this. No, it would have been there. And it's like, oh, dude, I got way too many options. And this is like a major mind mess.
my other AirPod just died, so I'm over the computer speaker now, if I sounded a little different.
Oh, you're good. Did you have
Yeah, no,
anything
I think
else? Oh,
traveling's
sorry.
one of those things that's just hard to do because it's so expensive nowadays, especially. And like
Mm,
getting off work, that's a thing of its own.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think traveling too. I would like to go overseas, but you think of all those European countries and they're all so interconnected. Like you were saying, like some of the states are bigger than a country, and all you have to do to go to a different country is just drive. Whereas you have Mexico, you have Canada, and then you have all of Latin America. But if you want to go pretty much anywhere else, you're flying there. There's not really it's pretty landlocked in that sense, or not landlocked, the opposite of that. But
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there's
Yeah.
such a barrier to entry to go visit other countries because I mean, you can't just drive there. You got to fly overseas.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, if you drive, I could take off to California right now. It's going to take me, 28 hours to get there. But
Yeah.
if you drive 28 hours over there, you're going from, I don't know, Paris all the way to like almost the Middle East, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not that far, but you can cross a bunch of countries, and over here, you're still just in the same old U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a lot of different cultures that you just went through in each one of those
Oh yeah.
areas. Where in the U.S. you're going from conservative, liberal, hillbilly, redneck. Like there's like not that big of a variety of people you're going to see. Like if you've seen them here, you probably saw them there
Yeah.
in terms of their dress and their clothing. Whereas you go from the Middle East, you're going to see this. Europeans, you're going to see just so many different lifestyles and cultures. Where
Just
do
a
you want to
language
go?
difference.
What's that?
Just a difference in language from, one country to
Hmm.
the next. Here, it's, obviously we have Spanish a little bit here and there and a bunch of other, but it's usually just English. So,
Hmm.
What are some of your top picks of where you want to go?
um, still sticking with Europe, probably. I would say Switzerland's another big one. I want to do want to hike through like the Alps or just ski,
Hmm.
but there probably yeah, Switzerland and Austria are probably my top two, which those are pretty close. So I'd like to do like a trip to get both of those. But I mean, outside of there, like I've always wanted to go on go to Australia, New Zealand, do like a safari in like Africa, which
Hmm.
that one seems a little bit more out of out of reach right now, just kind of with how the world is and how the countries are over there. But I think that's something I always want to do. I think it would just be sweet to see, those type of animals, in like not
Oh
in a
yeah.
cage,
Yeah.
just kind of sit there and just watch them. But yeah, I'd say Europe's my main, just kind of sticking with that. But or other U.S. states, I want to do like, I'm a big national park guy, so like Yellowstone, I want to do. I've been by the Grand Canyon, but never like actually walked around it or like walked down in it.
Hmm.
Just things like that.
Where do you want to go out of the country, Jake?
I always thought Switzerland would be pretty cool. I would like to go. I would like to go to Rome. I would like to go to Paris. I would really, really like to go to Egypt
Hmm.
and see the pyramids. And there's a lot of things that I would like to see. I would like to see the Great Wall of China someday. I think that would be super cool. There's a lot of really cool landmarks and just a lot of history that's you read about it, you watch all this stuff about it, but you never really it's a very different thing when you're actually there, you know.
Because what's interesting is with like our VR headsets, you can essentially go there and see all these
Yeah, but
things.
it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not the same.
It's a good second option if you don't like want to actually travel.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I like Jake said, it's just just being there and seeing it, especially with like for the Great Wall of China. I mean, the magnitude of it
Mm-hmm.
would just be. I mean, you only get to see like a tenth of a percentage of it because it's however like 10,000 miles long or whatever it
Yeah.
is. It's just insane to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I've always thought about the Great Wall of China, but it's like you get there, you can kind of walk on it for a little bit, but then
Yeah.
after that, it's like you're not going to go see a different part because it's the same thing.
Yeah. You don't get to
So, I
take
mean,
in the whole magnitude of it. You don't get to see all
yeah,
16,000 miles of it at once. So I mean,
yeah.
your brain can try to imagine it. That's like trying to imagine how far away the moon is. You're like, oh, it's 250,000 miles. It's like, how far is that? Like
Yeah.
your brain stops being able to comprehend it after an hour drive. It's like, okay, how far is that?
There'll be
But
somebody out there one of these days, YouTube vlogger or something. They're like, I want to start at the first point and walk
yeah,
to the end. Takes them
yeah,
like 3 years.
yeah, yeah. You have to camp on the wall.
That'd be wild.
Can you actually walk on the wall?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if they let you walk on like a little bit. I don't really,
All
but
right.
I've seen like videos of like tourists and stuff. Like you can just go up and like walk along it.
I
I don't
see.
really know how that works.
Huh. Yeah, that'd be cool. I think the pyramids would be
Pyramids would be
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
See, I just don't like sightseeing. It's just like if I see something, it's like, okay, I saw it. Like also saw a picture of it. Whoop de doo. Like I don't care. Like I like using things or seeing people or something, but I just get so bored with looking at stuff. Like I think I would be super pissed with how much money I dropped on being able to go and see it and be like, okay, I could have literally watched YouTube videos on this.
I think like Mac was saying, just the architecture and the you see it, but actually picturing all of the process that went into it actually being built and being able to appreciate that. And it's not so much, I don't know, it's not so much the thing that's standing there before you, but it's a lot of about the experience and the history behind it is, I guess, what's so fascinating to me. Yeah.
That's why the pyramids are cool because
Yeah.
we don't truly know how they were
Right.
built, which
Right.
is just like crazy to me nowadays with this technology and stuff we have. Like we haven't found like, I guess, I don't know what they kept, like scriptures or whatever of like, processes of or, blueprints back
Right.
then or
Yeah.
whatever they used. But I mean, just not knowing how those were built, like those just don't pop up. So,
Hmm.
Yeah, they definitely do not.
Yeah.
but, aliens, if you want to get into that whole sidetrack spiel of things.
Oh, I don't think it was aliens. You, you know, the Amazon used to be like a full civilization.
Which that I also just like can't picture.
Yeah. I think visiting the Amazon
Of
would be
what?
super cool.
Anacondas?
No, of like people and buildings, and they use like this ground penetrating radar, and they find like all of these buildings and structures underneath all of the trees and bushes and stuff of the Amazon.
Oh
Which
wow.
Yeah.
which speaking of the Amazon, I saw a thing a couple months ago where they're like there's like two cities in Brazil, but it cuts like right through
Mm.
the Amazon, and they're going in and like plowing down
Mm-hmm.
and building like a interstate from those two cities. Which like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I understand like for like the economy and stuff like that, but I mean, not when we're alive, but one day there's just going to be no nature left.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like why there's like Joe Rogan has this guy on a lot where I don't remember his name, but he's like a all of the loggers that go to the Amazon to basically deforest the Amazon and profit off of it. He takes those guys that are actually working on basically destroying the Amazon, and really they're just down there because they live down there and that's what they have as an option for a job. So he goes down there with all of these people backing him via, I don't know, they just fund him because saving the Amazon is something that they would like to happen. And he basically goes down there and he hires these people to, rather than destroy, they work as like a protector of the Amazon and just kind of making them, opening the option for them to work and make money still, but instead of just chopping down trees, because at the end of the day, they don't do it because they want to. It's like they have to support a family. They have to at the end of the day. So just
Yeah.
kind of preserving the Amazon in all of its wildlife. And yeah.
it's a whole rabbit hole it's fun to think about, but it's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It's like people are dedicating their life to. It's just like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. It's like I've never put an ounce of thought into this one particular thing, and there are people out there dedicating their entire lives, like they live and breathe protecting the Amazon. I have never once thought I'm going to go save the Amazon, but there are people out there dedicating their lives to it. And it's just like such a wide variety of how you can spend your time.
There's a
Crazy.
lot of people spending a lot of their time, energy, and money buying on the Amazon, though.
Yeah, that's true. It's very popular.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Any of you have anything else?
No. Did Mac have any stories of dad?
Yeah, I did. It was funny actually. Jake texted me like an hour before. He's like, "Hey, if you got any good stories, like try to think of it."
Yeah.
Um, Mine's not like any particular story of Monty. It's more of like kind of a collection of growing up and being around obviously Jake and you guys and your
Mm-hmm.
dad. Um, Starting with, I think I can recall some of it just like you played at fraternity. I was on St. Mary's. We would
Mm-hmm.
play each other in sports. And then getting really where it started was baseball minor leagues. Being on the same team for the Marlins that one year.
Mm-hmm.
Same kid, super shy, but like your dad always had, something to say to just like crack up the whole team. Or I
Yeah.
can remember like, I'd be pitching or something and he'd be like, good game, Big Mac, or, like Mac attack, go attack him or something like that. And I mean, it was the same thing in high school.
Yeah.
It didn't matter, who it was, if it was me, someone that never played, whoever it was in high school, like he always had conversations with the whole team. And I think like when you asked me about that, like to think of something, it just made me kind of think like, you know, no matter like what you're going through in life or what you're dealing with, like you can always be that person that like, can choose like you're gonna make someone else's day. And that's something that he always did.
Right.
Every time I ever talked to him, it was like you walked over with a smile, you left with a smile. Um, He'd always laugh.
Hmm.
He was just he was just a super funny guy. It was something, I only got those little snippets from sports, after practice, you'd see him, or, from a game, or, travel ball, whatever it may be. He was always there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think that's the thing is just for me, it's like I was thinking about it and just, it made me think like, as now I'm coming an adult and like, maybe eventually, if I want to have kids, raising kids or going to like sporting events like that, wanting to be that person that's gonna,
Hmm.
crack that joke or like, hype up the little kid, make them
Yeah.
feel good if they had a bad game.
Yeah.
Because that's something that your guys' dad would always do.
Hmm.
That's like when I thought of him, that's like what I thought about because that's what he was. No matter what the game was, win or lose, you played good, you played bad. He was always there cracking a joke and just like, having a good time, which, I always like nowadays when I think back on it, I just appreciate it.
Hmm. Here.
And that's like the third time too. Like it's
Is it
like
the same
if it's not
person?
one thing, no, it's
Oh.
delivery drivers. It's like I got a delivery. It's like yeah, call the resident,
At
dude. Like
9
the office
p.m.?
closed at 6 o'clock. It's 9:08. Like acting like why isn't the office open? Like why are you not like? And this guy, he was out there for 4 minutes, finally knocking on the door, knocking on the door. It's like, all right, dude, like he's not gonna stop. Like,
Uh,
Good times.
yeah. So, on that note, we appreciate you guys joining in. Mac, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your stories, your enlightenment, and
Yep.
being able to, enjoy it. And we hope everybody enjoyed the episode. We hope we made you laugh. If not, too bad.
Yeah. Sucked to be you.
Thank you guys. It was fun to just, kind of just,
Yeah.
chat about life, especially growing up in the same area. So it was
Yeah.
fun.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no worries.
Alrighty. Well,
Good night, guys.
see you, everybody.